Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for being here today. My name is D. Nash Dobolito. I am the president of the AHF Skid Row Tenants Association and Council. The fact that so many of you have gathered here today speaks volumes about the seriousness of the issues we're here to address and the urgency in which they need to be resolved and need resolution. Today, we come together, confront the crisis that plagues our community for too long. The tenants of Skid Row, particularly those living in the properties managed by the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Healthy Housing Foundation, are experiencing ongoing severe violations of their rights. Our homes, the place where we should feel safe, have been neglected. Our voices have been ignored. This stops now. Violation of tenants' rights. At the core of our gathering today, there is the systematic, continuous violations of tenants' rights in properties managed by AHF. For the months, we've documented numerous of alarming issues that impact the daily lives of Los Angeles' most vulnerable residents. Federal Law 24 CFR 245.100 and the Los Angeles County Code 8.52.130 exist to protect tenants by ensuring the housing is safe, secure, habitable. However, these laws have been brilliantly disregarded. The failure to perform basic repairs, neglect of emergencies, and general lack of building maintenance have left tenants living in unsafe, unsanitary, and disregarded conditions. These violations are just abstract legal issues. They are an attack on our dignity, our quality of life. We're talking about our families, our seniors, people with disabilities, individuals recovering from trauma, being forced to endure unlivable conditions. This is unacceptable. Unhabitable living conditions. Let me share with you the specific conditions tenants are faced to endure. We have buildings where we have plumbing issues frequently, resulting in floods, sewer backups. They are not minor inconvenience. They are serious health hazards. We have emergency plumbing service delays for days, forcing tenants to live in conditions that are dangerous and uninhabitable. Recently, we just had a power outage for more than 24 hours, and they did not call the electrician until the following 24 hours. Then they showed up. Pest infestations are rampant with rats, roaches, bedbugs becoming a daily reality. Heating systems are unreliable, leaving residents freezing in the winter. Basic sanitation and safety standards have been ignored, turning what should be homes into hazard environments. And this isn't accidental neglect. This is deliberate. Requests are routinely ignored. Complaints about broken windows, leaking roofs, and electronic hazards have gone unanswered. The message does this send to our tenants that we don't matter, that our safety is not a priority. We can't allow this to continue anymore. Disrespected by top management. Adding to this Honduras living conditions is a profound culture of disrespect coming from management. Under the leadership of Dominic Eastman, Director of Healthy Housing, and Michael Weinstein, CEO of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, tenants have been treated as if our concerns are unimportant. Rather than engaging with the tenants and our association, management has responded with silence, dismissal, or worse, intimidation. The AHF website claims bridge the human rights gap for better quality and healthy living. Once again, they claim bridging the human rights gap for better quality and healthy living. Yet, their actions tells a different story. There is no communication, no transparency, and no accountability. We are not dealing with poor management here. We are dealing with an abuse of power. This behavior ends now. Which brings me to the heart of our demands here. It is time for those responsible for this neglect and abuse to be held accountable. As president of the AHF Skid Row Tenants Association, I am formally calling the immediate resignation for the following individuals. Dominic Eastman, Director of Healthy Housing, who has failed to manage the properties effectively, resulting in the crisis we face today. His failure to communicate or respond to tenants is unacceptable. Beatriz Dimarco, property manager of the Baltimore and New Hope properties, who has disregarded tenants' rights, contributed to the hostile environment many of us now live in. Angela Earvin, property manager of the Madison Hotel, where tenant complaints have been systematically ignored, leading to hazardous living conditions, including the horrific accident of the tenant falling through an elevator shaft. And now we're in court starting this Monday. Vivian Moreno, property of the manager of the King Edward, who has allowed the building to fall into dangerous disrepair without proper security, leaving tenants vulnerable and violence and neglect. A person was just murdered there, and she allowed that to happen. These individuals have shown their actions, or lack thereof, they are unfit to manage housing for vulnerable populations. Their continued employment poses a risk to tenants' health, safety, and they must step down immediately. Additionally, I'm personally seeking justice in the courts to recover $1,235 owed to me personally that represents the cost incurred due to management neglect, covering printing materials that they destroyed, manpower, lost rent, damage to property, and emerging plumbing services. This claim is about more than money. It's about holding management accountable for their actions. The AHF Skid Row Tenants Association is also seeking damages up to $74,000 for repeated infractions, with legal avenues open to pursue broader justice. We will continue to fight until every tenant is compensated, significant changes are made. Evidence of neglect. We have documented neglect tenants have faced. In our photos displayed, you'll see a resident with cockroach infection on his head. You'll see a ceiling collapse on an injured the tenant in his room. Brown substance growing from the walls. Not black mold, but a brown substance which has not yet been identified. And we found a dead rat in a resident's room. As you'll see by the images, speaks for themselves. This has to stop now. Our community is resistant to and will not be silenced. Today we demand respect, justice, and the restoration of our homes into safe, dignified living spaces. To AHF and Healthy Housing, your time is up. We no longer are asking for change, we are demanding change. If you do not respond and is received by September 29th, our association will begin a rent strike, which will continue until formal bargaining agreement is in place, even if it takes a year. If nothing changes by October 14th, we will picket the Healthy Housing Foundation, and if no action is taken, we will protest at the main headquarters of AHF in October 20th. Thank you to all of the tenants who have shared their stories and strengths in this fight. Together, we will ensure justice prevails, that no one in our community has to live in fear or neglect again. We're all asking that the community support us in our legal battle by donating to our GoFundMe page for legal expenses. You can find our page at www.tenantsunion.us. Every donation counts, and we will help us continue this fight. And now, we have received questions from the media. We would like to open the floor to them and answer their questions as best as we can. First question, can you explain the primary reason behind the decision for the rent strike? Yes, the decision to call for a rent strike stems from the repeated violations of the tenants' rights, unsafe living conditions, and management refusal to address these critical issues. We tried to resolve these matters through a dialogue, but after months of no interaction, this is our only option to demand accountability. Next question. What are some of the living conditions tenants are facing that prompted this rent strike? Tenants are dealing with issues such as broken plumbing, lack of maintenance, pest infestation, and other hazards that make the building unsafe, uninhabitable. These conditions have persisted, multiple complaints, and management has done little to resolve them. Next question. What specific demands are the tenants making of AHF and the property managers? We are calling for the resignation of the property managers like Beatriz Dimarco, Angela, and Vivian, and Dominic, whose mismanagement has directly contributed to these problems. Additionally, we are demanding the start of a formal bargaining agreement to address tenants' concerns across all 4 hotels and ensure proper maintenance, respect for tenants' rights, and transparency in all management practices. Next question says, if AFH does not respond by September 29, what will the rent strike and subsequent actions look like? If AFH fails to respond by September 29, the rent strike will begin and tenants will withhold rent payments until resolution is reached by October 14th. By October 14th, if there is still no response, we will begin to picketing the Healthy Housing Foundation, and by October 20th, we will plan to escalate our efforts to protest at the AHF office. We don't want to do this, but they're making us because we need to get our voices heard. Next question. Why have you chosen to escalate from the rent strike to picketing, and what do you hope to achieve with these protests? We are escalating to picketing because AHF and the property managers have constantly ignored our concerns by taking our grievances to the public and making our voices heard through these protests. We hope to pursue them into action. Our goal is simple. We want them to address the unsafe living conditions, negotiate with the tenants in good faith. Has the union or the Skid Row Tenants Association attempted to negotiate with AF before calling for the rent strike? Yes. We have tried multiple times to engage with AFH and the property managers to resolve these issues. Unfortunately, our efforts have been met with indifferences or outright refusal to address our concerns. The rent strike is the last resort after all the other avenues have been exhausted. Next question. How will the rent strike affect tenants, particularly those who are vulnerable and struggling financially? We understand that a rent strike can be difficult, especially vulnerable tenants, which is why we have set up a resource and support system to help those who may face financial challenges. The purpose of the strike is to create a collective voice, ensuring no individual tenant bears the burden alone. Together, we are stronger and can stand up to these injustices. Next question is asked, are you concerned about any potential legal representation for tenants who participate in the rent strike? We all are aware of the potential legal risk involved in tenants having the right to withhold rent to conditions of unhabitable living and management fails to address these serious concerns. We are working with legal advisors to ensure tenants are protected throughout this whole process. We are also accepting donations for our legal expenses through our GoFundMe page, which can be found at www.tenantsunion.us. Next question. You called for the resignation of property managers like Beatriz, Vivian, and Dominic and Angela. What specific actions have they taken or failed to take that warrant these demands? Beatriz and other property managers have constantly ignored tenant complaints about serious issues, from health hazards to maintenance failures. Their lack of response, disregard for tenants' well-being, and mismanagement of these properties have been made living conditions intolerable. That's why we believe new leadership is essential. If AHF still refuses to meet your demands, what are your next steps on October 20th? If AHF refuses to engage with us even after the pickets, we will continue to organize and escalate our protests and explore additional legal options, including courts. This includes seeking broader support from community organizations and legal actions to ensure tenants' rights are upheld. We are committed to fight this until these issues are resolved. Next question. How can the public or other tenants support the union and Skid Row Tenants Association in their efforts? We encourage the public and other tenants to join us in solidarity by attending our protests, spreading the word of awareness of our cause, and support the rent strike. This is about more than just residents of these buildings. It's about holding property managers and organizations accountable for their safe, livable conditions for all. Donations for legal expenses can be made to our GoFundMe page once again at www.tenantsunion.us. Now, some of the questions that we have are now for AFH. What specific steps has AHF taken to address the concerns of unsafe living conditions in properties like the Baltimore New Hope and the Madison? That's a question for AFH. Next question for AFH is, several property managers, including Beatriz Dimarco, have been named as responsible for poor conditions and tenants' mistreatment. How does AFH plan to hold them accountable? Another question, will AFH consider the call of resignation of the property managers overseeing the troubled properties? Next question, how is AFH responding to the announcement of the rent strike by the Skid Row Tenants Association if demands are not met by September 29th? Next question for AFH, what is AFH's position on tenants' decision to withhold rent until bargaining agreements have reached for the 4 hotels, which could last up to a year? How does AFH plan to address the upcoming pickets and the Healthy Housing Foundation and AFH offices if there's no resolution is reached? Has AFH been in communication with the Tenants Association to prevent further escalation of this protest? Federal and local law violations. The Tenants Association claims AFH has violated federal laws 24 CFR 245.100 and Los Angeles County Code 8.52.130. What is AFH Legal's response to these allegations? Next question. What actions will AFH take moving forward to improve conditions for tenants and ensure their rights are respected? Next question. Will AFH engage in formal negotiation with Tenants Association to resolve the ongoing disputes? That's all I have for you guys today. I want to thank you for coming out to our press conference. And the reason why we did not have the press conference live on the media channels is because property managers and assistants and employees shooed them away, which was another violation in itself. So I just want to thank you all for coming out and listening, and I hope this helps everyone. Let's stick together. Brotherhood, it's time to stick together as one. Remember, there's a million voices that are never heard every day. And we are, as tenants, me as your president, I come to you and say, let's get this done and have a better living environment. May God bless you, and I'll keep you safe. We'll see you soon.